DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to your Monday night show. It's just John and I, because, you know, we figured we've got a diet before Thursday, so we had to trim off the other two people.
Actually, they probably have lives and we don't, and that's why we're here. Oh.
We don't give away our secrets, John.
Sorry.
My goodness. But now it's all good. But yeah, so it is John and I tonight, and we are having a wonderful discussion. Some of it's going to be serious. Some of it's going to be completely, like we were eating turkey already.
So you're saying there might be a tangent?
Or 12.
Well, that would be the first time that happened, so I'm glad. This ad has been running for like 47 minutes. I'm going to skip the ad. There we go. I can see you now. You're there, really, honestly. For goodness. So tonight, we got a few things we're going to be hitting tonight, but the main one we're going to talk about is contracts. This is a weird year. We've talked contracts numerous times. This has been a weird year because our contracts that we thought were cast in stone and things that happen, and we want to really look at what our contracts, how they're going to need to evolve if they haven't already evolved, and what we can expect from contracts in that entertainment wedding industry going into 2021 and beyond. So we're going to definitely get into that a little bit. There's actually some things we're going to talk a little bit about, some gear. There's going to be things hitting and things. We're going to talk a little bit about that and looking forward into 2021 with that. And there was one more area that I wanted to talk about. I'll remember it later. We'll put a pin in that one, and
we can't share everything anyway, John, because then then when they watch this on replay, they're just gonna zoom right to that spot.
No, they're right to the good spot. Yeah, right where the information they want. So there was another thing, and I'll hopefully remember before we wrap up tonight. So Dan, it's contract. We've had contracts with our entertainment service forever. When it came into 2020, and you started having couples wanting to move dates, do different things. Did you have anything in your contract to deal with that at that time? I didn't.
And a lot of times I've actually been thinking about redoing my contract for a few years now. And I struggle because the lawyers in our area, there's not really any specialized to entertainment. So trying to find one that wants to even touch it has been kind of a sticky subject. So no, to answer your question, as far as like, did I have a clause in my contract that said, if they want to, if they want to move due to whatever, nothing that was relating to anything we were happening with this year. No.
And I think that's probably one of the big things, that we all had, is we never had anything that would deal. Obviously this is a once in a 100-year type of whatever, but other things could have happened, especially like in Robin's area. She's down in Florida, or Scott, they're down in that area where a hurricane could come through and wipe things out, and could wipe things out for a month, if there's enough damage to their area, maybe 2 months. It's hard to say. So there's other people have had experiences with catastrophic situations. It's just, I don't know if anybody really had something put into place to handle moving of events like the way they happened this particular summer.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of some who have had, and I don't want to say they called it the pandemic clause, but basically had a disaster clause, to where if it was a situation like that, how it would be handled, had it, for no reason other than the fact that their areas ran into something. Because when everybody was talking about, I've got this, I've got that, and my contract's ironclad because I've got this, and so that was one of the things I would see pop up a couple different times. And I want to say the people that I was seeing this from were people that were in areas that had like natural disaster type of things come through to create issues for them.
Robin's in the chat. Thank you, Robin, for that. She mentioned months. Robin, I'm guessing you have something, just a, yes or no is all we need. But you have something that in your contract that talks about that. If you have events that need to be canceled or moved, you had something dealing with that, I'm guessing. But Robin, let us know on that if that's the case. And if you're any of the rest of you, if you in the chats, because I see Gus and JC, and I think I saw John is in there, and DJ Dynamite and. Ethan is in there on Facebook, and that's another one. And then Facebook user. I'm sorry, somebody commented and it doesn't show me your name. Anyway, if you guys have had something prior to that fit for the situation, because now we all of a sudden had these clients who are like, okay, we're not canceling on you, but we can't have it, which is different than, well, we're canceling on you because you cost too much. That was an easy one. Most of us had something that dealt with that. But when it came to the point of not having the event because it was against the law type of situation, which we did have for a period of time, that was something so unusual. Yeah, Robin mentions that she definitely had something in her contract with that. Since that time, Dan, as you're getting ready to write contracts for 2021, you've got people calling now and again, and they're new. They're not people moving dates. How have you been? What have you been thinking about handling that differently?
Well, with the situation that we have, I've decided not to necessarily pursue trying to rewrite the contract with this pandemic in mind and what we dealt with in mind. Now, I know wording needs to be fixed, and I know I need to prepare for situations like what Robin's talking about, but I don't necessarily want to, for lack of better terms, paint myself into a corner and paint the client into a corner based upon it. Like, there's some that, were, boasting, we've got a pandemic proof contract. And yes. there was different things you would see even within the DJ circles of people trying to sell it or bringing in lawyers. All this is pandemic proof. And, and yet in this flip side, you hear other organizations and other lawyers who are saying, listen, this is a force majeure. Your contract is null and void because they can't happen. Whether it's in your contract or not, you're not going to be able to hold them to it. And so as a result, I decided that it might be better for me to prepare for the natural disaster type of situations than to focus on it's illegal for me to. Mm-hmm. And realize that if I'm in a situation where it's going to be an illegal, I'm going to come alongside the client and be that confidant, and be that helpful ear rather than the one that's like, you know what, sorry, in my contract it says you owe me, $4,000 because of this happened, pay up. Just to me, there's a different side.
I think you made a really good point talking about where it's in essence illegal or it's banned or that situation compared to situations where the venue burns down and they can't have it, and you find out only a few days ahead of time, or somebody in a family dies and they cancel the wedding, and there's so many variables that could cancel a show or cancel an event, and yet the one that is the real question mark becomes is that one where it's and if it's only one canceled because of a legal thing, that's a different story. But I think this year what hurt is that, the first one that cancels, everyone would have written it off and said, we're going to do the right thing and just get money back and be good. But when it happened week after week after week, the phrase you keep hearing from people is, we've got to run our business too. And hopefully people understand. And it's been across the news with venues up in our region that venues are like, yeah, we're not giving money back and we're running a business, and they should understand because they're, it's a different world, I think, because for where we were a year ago, because everyone would have just written it off as doing the right thing, regardless of what the laws would say. If you should give it back or you don't have to give it back, people I think were doing that most often. Mm-hmm. And this now we've crossed a line, I think, in how we look at things when it comes to retainers that we probably didn't look at them that way before.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I just it grates me when somebody says this, and if you said this, I apologize, but my issue when somebody says, well, we've got a business to run too, I get that. I understand it. I understand you've got costs, you've got, you've got all these expenses that are still going on regardless. But you are basically saying to the client, if you say that, it is, well, my needs outweigh yours.
Very true. Good way.
And we do this for a living, and if you want to argue, I did this for your wedding, and now you're canceling it, not postponing it, but you're canceling it. Or I've done this for your wedding and you're moving the date to a date I can't do. You can justify it. But if you come along and say, well, you owe me the full amount because it was 3 weeks prior, but oh yeah, nobody else is going to be able to get married that same day anyway, because nobody's allowed to in our area. Well, it's not like it's you're blaming them for something that's out of their hands. I realize it's kind of the same, like, well, they're blaming you for something that's out of your hands if you keep it, but it's just one of those things. It's like, to me, it doesn't sit well, and I probably would have I shouldn't say that. I may have a different look on this if this were full time. If I had to worry about putting food on my table for my family based upon my events, I might have a harder time, with that. But in my stomach just still doesn't sit well with that whole, well, we're business too.
Yeah, that one just didn't feel right, I think is the best way to describe it, as you said. Eric on Facebook mentions, a person could, move the date ahead and keep the retainer. And obviously if that happened, and a lot of people were able to do that, or they did that. Now the question becomes is if they'll be able to do it next year. But that's another story for another day. Moving forward, of course, was the ideal thing, and that's what most people and businesses were wanting to do. But of that, I've had now, I think about a third somewhere, maybe a couple more, I think have been talking about not planning to skip their weddings for next summer. I had one of mine for next May that just messaged here a couple of days ago, and they're like, John, we may just decide to pull the plug completely. So, and if that happens, that's so much. Robin mentions if the cancellation is not within their control, I refund. And it's typically what I have done to myself also, Robin, is a death in a family, or, one of the groom died just the night before the wedding type of thing. Yeah, that was a no-brainer, and the money went back. Typically we've done that. I think what happened that made it difficult this year is a string of them. Every week, in essence, somebody died and whatever, we just had it time and time again. So the question comes is we're looking out into 2021. We've experienced this year. We might have changed our contract or not, but it's going to get into 2021 is that how is a person going to change things to protect ourselves? And the first place I want to start with is, Dan, because you did have some 2020s moving to 2021, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So that means that the retainers you typically would have been taking in during this time of the year for your summer weddings of next year are not there. Let's talk about the money side of it. How are you going to handle payments with your shows for 2021?
So as far as I did not, because everything happened in March, my first wedding wasn't until May. I only had, I think, one couple that paid in full. And so all the other ones, we were at the retainer stage, and we hadn't completed payments. So the nice thing, if anything, as I'm going into next year, I'm not getting any retainers coming in the winter, but it's not like I've collected all the money for next year and now I'm just it's already sitting there. Mm-hmm. I'm waiting. And I have a big, I'm a big believer in, I don't touch that money until the event.
Nice.
I've got a business account set up. All the money goes in there. I don't take my payment for the event until I've performed.
And hang on, just hold that thought. Yeah. For those of you wondering, there's a cash method of doing your accounting, and there's an accrual. And what Dan's referring to right now is the accrual method, which means that money does not hit his books as income until the event, the time of the event, which for people who do their books that way, and Howie's making reference to that in the chat room right now. Good evening, Howie, by the way. It's good to see you. that is a huge asset because that money goes into the savings account, as Dan was saying, and it's there if he needs it. Okay, thank you, Dan.
Yeah. So yeah, so as next summer rolls around, the ones that did postpone until next year, they're going to be making their payment in full at that point, and that money's still going to be coming in. So there's going to be some downtime, but in the same respect, what I'm still noticing is I'm still having 2021 brides and couples that are reaching out, during this time. I've still got holes in my schedule. The stuff that moved it's not like I took everything from 2020 and moved it to 2021. I had a fair number of my 2020s who moved them to like Sundays this fall.
Oh, wow.
And so because they were still wanting to get married, and we opened up enough that we were able to pull that off. In PA, it was as long as it was outdoors, you could have up to 250. Well, that was pretty much everybody. So it really wasn't an issue. There was only some that went to next year. I even had one that went all the way out to 2022. The weird thing is that's the one who's paid in full. It's the one for 2022. So, but it's only one at this point.
Adrian here. I'm going to read this. I believe clients will want some flexibility in their refund, and they're meeting with clients and asking them what will happen if there's a government mandate and we do not need to and we need to reschedule or postpone. Adrian, you're ahead of us, and that's where I wanted to go next. Is part of the service that we do and that communication we need to have in situations, because early on we talked about this. Is that are you communicating back in March, February and March and April? Are you communicating with your clients and talking about that? That communication, I think, is going to be really critical, especially with new contracts coming up, and you've got people who are like, "Oh, look, April's wide open. Let's book it," type of thing. That conversation should be had, and I've had that with couples that okay, so I can book that date, but what's going to probably happen is it's a very good chance that your indoor wedding with 300 people may not be possible. If they're going to allow you only 50 people, are you still going to be able to go through with the wedding, or are you going to want to move the date? If it's has to be moved outdoors, are you going to be able to go through asking some questions and having that dialogue? Because there's a real possibility, as they're talking about vaccines not being available, and ready to go, that could be part of our 2021. The question becomes is, okay, how do you have those conversations and you get a level of agreement? How do you put that in writing, type of thing?
Yeah.
That's where I'm struggling, and I spent some time talking to an attorney that we're doing some other things with about that a little bit, and he's like, "Dude, you guys are kind of on your own right now. There's really no way you can cover all of the eventualities and be able to protect both parties at a level that would keep you guys out of a small claims court if one or the other was upset."
Yeah, and I think there's two ways to go about that's going to help, because you don't want a contract that's going to be, a mortgage contract. You know what I mean? Like, for those of you that bought a house, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. Where, my gosh, it's like 800 pages, and you have to put your initial in every one.
Sign here.
Exactly. So you want to try and avoid that. And I think, unfortunately, if you try and put every clause imaginable in there, it's going to turn into that. And the clients may not read it, and you can be like, well, that's on them. Yeah, but you want them to understand what's happening and what's in front of them, and so finding a way to take care of that. The only workaround I could see would be for you to have that conversation, best case scenario, in email, so that they're aware of the terms and they're aware of how this handles, and having some of that conversation. The reason why I say email is so that it's in writing.
Yeah, there's a paper trail, yes.
A paper trail of some sort. And so, if it came down to that, there would be some sort of a backing. I think it's important to have that conversation regardless, just to understand. Regardless. Anyway, you're supposed to have that conversation either way, to make sure that, they're on the same page and you're on the same page and everybody knows what's going to happen, especially in light of those, for lack of it, those indoor events, because that for a lot of the states, that's been the kind of line. Some states are wide open and some are completely closed, but the ones that are kind of doing both, it's like indoor, outside, okay, to a certain extent. So having that conversation of what's gonna impact and what's the plan for them if things have to change.
Dynamic DJ Dynamic here mentions they offered a discount, a 10% discount on Friday or Sunday dates if they move their event to one of those dates instead of staying on a Saturday for next year. That was a great idea. Definitely a great idea. Unfortunately, in our area, there's so few Friday and never a Sunday wedding. Yeah, I just envy when people are saying, "Oh yeah, I've got a wedding on Thursday." What? What? Thursday? I thought everybody just stayed at home and watched like Sheldon or something. I didn't know.
Yeah. But no, I think that's a good idea. Especially if you're talking about couples that are moving. Listen, things aren't exactly what you wanted to have happen. I get that. You're going to move it till next year. I'd love to be able to help you out. In fact, let's go ahead and take it a step further. If you can set something up for a Friday or a Sunday with your venue, that would work even better. And because of the hassle that you've had to go with, I'd be willing to offer you a 10% discount. Mm-hmm. And what's going to end up happening is you're going to build that rapport. You're going to create a moment where it's not, you don't have to tell them that basically, oh crap, you took a Saturday and that's out of next year's inventory. And you had 2 dates of Saturdays. You don't have to necessarily go that route with them. But if you explain to them basically what I said, you could really make their day, with that. Again, if you're kind of like, in an area like John and I, though, where Fridays and Sundays don't really happen, and like, yeah, it's too much hassle for a Friday. It's, too much for a Sunday, unless it's a holiday weekend. Sorry.
Yeah, if it's not a long weekend, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. I think the only reason why I got the Sunday ones that I did was a lot of the couples did not want to wait till next year. They really believed that everything was going to be okay come fall, or at least okay enough for them come fall. And so Sunday was the only option at these venues because the Saturdays were already gone.
Spoken for, yeah.
And so it was either, okay, we either do a Sunday or we wait till next year. We really don't want to wait any longer. So let's just do it.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be, even for folks who did move to next year, and if they have to change, I think we're going to see the people who, okay, we're going to have our 250 person party next year. And if those can't happen, I think they're just going to do it. Not at 250 people, they're going to find they might be the ones moving a 20 people in the backyard type of a situation. Because I don't think you're going to have couples. I've had a couple of them that had moved to early in 2021 have pulled the plug because they're like, we can't emotionally do it again. And I think we're going to see more of that as people they're going to just go ahead and have a plan B of small, outdoor, whatever, but the plan B is going to be there. And that's another thing for a plan B. You write the contract up there, Dan, and it's going to be at the local, the local wedding factory ballroom down the road, and it's the big, beautiful, and the full uplighting, everything. How do you handle if they come back and say, Dan, we can't do that, but we can do something in the backyard for 20 people? You've got a contract written up for this amount or in this service. Mm-hmm. How do you change on the fly with that type of a service?
You look at how you can uplight the tent they're going to use in the backyard. Now, I don't know, unfortunately, because you're right. I mean, that's something that's also going to be potentially thrown out there is that decrease in what they want to have and what they want you to bring. I think it's important to be able to be flexible with it. Yeah, it stinks. You had a contract for this amount, and now it's however much less. In the same respect, they didn't cancel completely at it's 6-7 months out. They didn't say sayonara. They decided to roll with it and still wanted to use you for the event. I feel like you have to be flexible with that and be willing to willing to downgrade your contract.
Mm-hmm.
You've taken options out. I mean, if you had a client who 2 months, 3 months before the wedding, said, listen, I'm sorry, let's say a little bit longer, whatever, said I can no longer afford, uplighting, something happened, car broke down, whatever. Would you hold them to that? Or would you be more understanding and saying, okay, that's fine, and we can take that out of the contract, and so therefore it's this much less? Because while I foresee some of those changes, I don't foresee it in the mass quantity that we had with 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Where everybody was moving. The situations where they're going to go from the fancy ballroom with your top package to the backyard with 20 people. Yes, you're going to have probably more than one, but I don't think you're going to have everybody.
Yeah, I think we're going to get to a point in time where next year, hopefully, we won't have that. You might early have that, but not so much later. Some great comments here. Scott mentions, of course, rework the contract to work with them, which, of course, is ultimately what a person would do. Where the direction I was going to go with that is having a multifaceted contract, and I'll come back to that. Jim mentions micro weddings are booming, which is what we've seen up here also. We've got the secret weddings that are happening for 300 people where nobody talks about it. And, it's like Fight Club. Number one rule is you don't talk about the wedding. But Jim continues that too bad most of those weddings don't need DJs, and that's an unfortunate reality. DJ Dynamic reverts back to the minimum booking rate. This is what it takes to book me, and then everything else is upsells or add-ons. And Scott, micro weddings are working the area. I'm going to jump back up though to Scott's other, the rework the contract. This is something I wanted to throw out there, and you guys can think about this a little bit. And it's more food for thought. This has been my kind of working thought process when it comes to contracts for next year. Is that I've been okay? Here's as Dynamic mentions. Here's the kind of my minimum booking for doing that indoor show and doing that you guys want to do. If for some reason we need to go outside and we're doing something, or if we're just going to do an outdoor cocktail and we something. I have this option available. And then basically at the time of booking that they can see that there's a mini option, there's the regular option, and then whatever it is, but they can see these different options, packages, whatever you want to call them, so that it's out there and such. And they're like, okay, yep, we're going to do this. And I've actually put on I've done it with my contracts. I wanted to kind of get a feel for it. So I have a contract that has the three different, this is the one that you guys are wanting to do. And we're going to do this one inside the Holiday Inn. In the event that the Holiday Inn can't handle indoor events, just wanted you guys to know that this is available and we can do something outside. If we do it at the park, if we do it whatever, that we can still do something, and I can still help you out with the ceremony and different aspects of it. And you can still have a beautiful wedding day. It's just may not be the initial one we talked about. And I haven't had any of them there. I've had them basically say, oh, we're confident we won't need that, but it's nice to know. But we won't need that because we're sure we'll be inside and everything will be great next year. Okay. Great.
I think it's a great idea to put that bug in their ear, especially as you said. It's mainly because I've actually, I've heard of this, and fortunately it hasn't happened to me, but where the client just assumed that the DJ couldn't do something.
Yeah, I've heard that also from a couple of people.
Oh, you do this, that means you can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so before they ever get to the point of talking with them, they line something else up behind them, and then they go and it's like, I could have done that for you. That's one of the things that drives me nuts is when I have a photo booth and I talk to my clients about my photo booth and everything is great, and then and they don't want one, and I'm like, okay, great, and I show up to the event and they've got a photo booth, and I go, I have one.
Yeah. Where's the disconnect here? Our communication didn't work out for some reason.
Yeah.
Didn't work out. So we'll kind of wrap up the contract. So a few thoughts, kind of parting thoughts with that. The contract we've had for years may or may not function, and it may or may not be enforceable, and it may or may not fit for 2021. Spending a ton of time and a ton of money talking to an attorney right now may or may not be a good idea. I think
so really, we did nothing tonight.
The biggest thing I think that you can take from tonight's is that if you genuinely go in to the conversation with your client and have that communication and are open and honest in both ways, but you're open and honest about what's going on and where you're at, and can get some understanding with that, that's going to go a long way. And it might be that you're going to go and you'll have that conversation and say, I'll hold this date for you, but no matter what happens, if the state shuts down, if we can't do it, whatever, this retainer is going to be, it will be forfeit. I cannot return this retainer to you once we booked. And it might be that maybe instead of going for half of your half of the money down, you go to maybe a quarter down or something different and make it so it's completely an understanding in the face-to-face conversation that it is non-refundable. And as Robin mentioned, have them initial that type of a clause to make sure that they understand it before going forward. That might be your best bet in this situation, is how to spell it out so it isn't something that they're just reading the small text, is that you're basically having that conversation and saying, I'm everything will be there. I'm going to hold that date for you, but if something doesn't, I'm going to have a little bit of time, a little bit of labor, a little bit of whatever involved, and this is basically to help me cover those expenses of driving to meet you and the times of whatever else has to be there.
I think it's great, and you kind of hit the head with that last part. It's, if you're also explaining to them, this isn't just to secure the date. Like it may seem that way, and that's how we often use it, but it's really to cover those costs that we have leading up to that. Everything, from our initial meetings, our conversations, all those administration types of costs are being used in that. I think it's great. And I would also add, if you don't have a contract that is fair to both sides, that would also be a good opportunity to really start to rethink and get set to talk to a lawyer, maybe when we have a better idea of how things are going to be. So like that contract is actually going to be good for you, but just having something that's for both parties will help in the long run too, because then also if there is that need to be flexible, it helps them and you.
For sure. Yeah, they looking out for both, or having a fair contract. When you get in front of a small claims judge, things such as that carry a lot of weight when you have a well-written contract that is basically spelling things out, but yet is fair for both parties and protecting both parties. You'll make a lot more brownie points that way than to basically have a one-sided contract, for sure. Okay, let's move on. So typically, at this time, we would have been through multiple shows throughout the course of the year. DJ Expo would have been in August. We would have seen a lot of new stuff. Last week was the first really new gear we've seen in a while with the Pioneer DJ with their Flex controller. There's a few other things that are in the works and should be dropping here in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks. I'm actually surprised that some of these companies are talking about dropping gear between Thanksgiving and Christmas time. I just, it's like, what? Huh? Really? So there's going to be a couple more things coming out. My question, Dan, did you have a chance to look at the Flex, any of the videos?
I did.
Okay. What were your thoughts on that? And there's a reason for why I'm going this way, gang. If you're wondering why, what do you care? It doesn't. Yeah. Go ahead, Dan. What are your thoughts?
So I felt it was gimmicky. Mm-hmm. From the standpoint of the way the effects were. I like the promo video because it put a lot more explanation into how those buttons work and everything else like that. But I can see where a lot of DJs are going to have a problem with it because they already have a problem with the sync button. They're going to have a problem with the effects button that does a lot of things for them, including something that basically scratches for them. So I get where a lot of people would have some difficulty for it. To me, at first, like when I was first looking at it before I got into like the in-depth look, I was like, it's another controller that's, I mean, they've already got the SX, they got the big SZ, they've got the DDJ 1000. It's like, where is this really fitting in for them within their line? To me, I like the fact that price point was a little bit lower. So even if you're not going to use the effects feature on it. It brings the cost down on a Serato and Record Box controller to something. There's not a whole lot at that price point. I did feel it like it wasn't entry level. I thought it was a little bit step up, but I don't think it's like their 1,000 level.
Fair. I'll go with that. So that controller, who is it aimed for?
What was that?
The market. Who is that aimed for? Who is that controller for?
Oh, who's it aimed for? I thought you said who was it named for or named after. I was like,
wait, hold on.
I didn't do that kind of research on it.
Yeah.
I feel that is it's funny because I say it's not exactly entry level, but I feel like it's for the bedroom DJ or the streaming DJ.
Exactly. That particular controller, and obviously it'll sell in the United States. They'll sell some here. That particular one was really designed to be for the bedroom DJ, the wannabe DJ. In Europe that is a huge market. A huge market where you have people who will probably never perform in their lives outside of their bedroom. They go and they buy that, and they've referred to it as the TikTok controller also, for the people who are doing wanting to do videos with that. They've created a controller that really isn't a mobile DJ controller. Now these next few products that are going to be hitting in the next couple of weeks, where do you think they're going to be aimed for?
The same spot.
Yes, exactly. You're not going to see much coming out here for mobile DJs. Probably you'll see it a little bit around NAMM time, but you're not going to see much coming out for mobile DJs from some of these controller companies and some of the others for a while. And it's just typical. The people who are buying these things, they're the ones that have a day job, and they're doing whatever their day job is, and or they're still making some unemployment from whatever they were doing. And this is a hobby. This is, what I have nothing to do, and I can either drink or smoke and to kill the time, or I can, I've always loved music. Let's see if I can become a rock star DJ in my bedroom. So for those of you who are going to be seeing things pop up, and the first thing you're going to do is say, well, that's stupid, and that doesn't work for mobile DJs. Keep in mind, the gear that we're going to see, it's not for us. They'll get back to us. Don't get me wrong. These companies have made some fantastic technology for mobile DJs or club DJs, but you're not going to see a lot of that for a period of time. Yeah,
which stinks because I keep hoping there's something that's going to be there.
Yeah, as I mentioned in the chat room, the Roland right now. Banned from NLFX Pro. If you guys go to nlfxpro.com, they've got a Black Friday link. You click on that. They've got some killer prices on some lighting and some controllers, specifically the Roland 707.
My jaw dropped when I saw that.
Yeah, that was cheaper than what they had at DJ Expo.
Yeah,
it was last year. Yes, when they were selling.
Oh yeah, a DJ Expo last year was like $1,000, which ended up being like MAP. They weren't really. There's a few bucks off of it or whatever. Yeah. But this year, go check out the link. If you were thinking even on the fence about this, like I kind of put it on the back burner and I saw that price and I went, Merry Christmas to me.
I was actually toying around with that too. As I've got Denon. I've got 2 Denon controllers sitting up there as spares in case my first one dies and Michael's first one died. We had picked up some spare B stock. And it's like, but that Roland's got some really cool features. And it has multiple solid mic inputs.
Mm-hmm. With effects on the mics themselves.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. Again, that was a mobile DJ. I think that was probably the closest to a specific wedding DJ controller that you could find. Yeah. Certainly mobile DJ. The new Pioneer, not even close. The new Pioneer is great for looking pretty on a TikTok video, but I don't think for anyone outside of a bedroom playing, like a small house party, plugging into the Sonos system type of thing. I don't think it's a real a real option. It does look neat though, and there's some technology, as we talked with Jay Brannon last week. It's like, will we see that merge technology in future controllers as we go forward for the mobile? And he kind of felt that that was something that will be there, but it's just like the sync button. It's going to be bastardized by DJs as they go forward. Okay, the last thing. If you guys are looking, if you followed, it was talking about some Black Friday sale price.
Oh, okay.
If you guys are looking for batteries, we've talked about Ryobi batteries because we've got. I don't have any of them within arm's reach. We've talked about some of the Ryobi inverters. That there's the 18 volt inverter and there's a 40 volt inverter. And I was trying to keep track of when the batteries were going to go on sale. Unfortunately, the 40 volt stuff became so popular that they're not putting anything on sale for Black Friday or even this week. Partially because it was popular and went pretty well in some tools. Some of their tools are just not that good in that 40 volt line. Most of them are adequate and some are really good. But I think that they also had a production as far as they just couldn't get them fast enough. But the 18 volt stuff is there, and I just put a link into the chat. That's the link to go to the Home Depot page that is, I've done a sort so you're looking at Ryobi batteries. They have a 2-pack of the 9 amp hour batteries, which you put that on that little 150 watt inverter, which gives you, it's a modified sine wave, but you can use it to power a speaker. If you're doing cocktail with that 9 amp hour battery, you're going to get at cocktail volumes, you should be able to get about 3 to 4 hours easily of runtime. If you're louder, you're going to get less runtime, but you can, at lower volumes, you may get the whole night type of a situation. So it's something that you guys might want to check out. And again, links in the chat. I like the 9 hour. They also had the 6 hour and they had the 4 amp hour battery. So they've got a variety of them depending upon their 2-packs, how much you want to spend. I think they range from like $79 for the 4 amp hour pack, $129 and maybe $179 for the 9 amp hour pack. But if you got Ryobi tools and you're into the 18 volt stuff, and if you have the inverters, this is going to be. It's not as good as I'd love to see them give you those 9 amp hour for $100 for both of them, but this is as good as it's going to go. Oh yeah, Day uses his 18 volt inverter for must be running the microphones and such, and then with the battery powered speaker. A complete sound system. Yeah, they're just a sweet little device. I've got 3 or 4 of them depending upon if I remember to grab the 4th one. But I've got 3 that were in my truck every time. So yeah, that was the other thing that I've been watching, and there just hasn't been the sales I was hoping to see. But this is a weird year, so everything's kind of weird. There is so.
Yeah, just a little.
So, Dan, Thanksgiving's coming up. What's on the menu for Thursday?
Turkey.
Wow.
We're one of those that do Thanksgiving and do turkey. Oh. That was not my tradition growing up, though.
Oh, what was that?
So grew up on the dairy farm.
Mm-hmm.
So Thanksgiving was when we butchered pigs.
Oh.
And so everybody would be outside doing that all day long, and you couldn't come in and sit down for a big meal. So it was ham and bean soup. That was my Thanksgiving meal for I don't know how many years growing up.
Interesting, a ham and bean soup.
Yeah, because they could do it in mass and it could stay warm, and
it was there. Yep,
it was there when you needed that, and then a bunch of pies.
Excellent. Yeah, as our variation of a fall outdoor family, when we would go and split wood, it was a similar situation, and it was always chili because you could make up a huge batch of chili, and Grandma, she had a way of making chili that was just. Haven't had chili like that since. She did it really well. Probably find out that she put like beer or something in it, that made it as a kid. It's like, ooh, this is the great stuff ever. Just trying to look here on the chat. The JBL Eon Pro. I'd love to get some of those into the studio here to be able to really kind of work with those and play with those, but just haven't seen those. Yeah, with Thanksgiving, we were talking. What we're going to do is each of the kids are going to be doing a part of the meal. So we have 4 children at home, so they can each pick something, and that's what they're going to make that. And it could be that we end up with 4 pizzas. We did a variation of this a number of years ago, and at the time we only had a couple of children that were old enough to do anything, and we ended up having sandwiches. But they weren't just regular sandwiches. No. These were the Ultra Cadultra sandwiches.
Ultra what?
Ultra Cadultra. This is what they called it. They're Ultra.
Oh, okay.
Ultra Cadultra sandwiches. So it was. We had ham, we had turkey, we had roast beef. Then they had 3 different types of cheese. Then they had lettuce and tomato, and there was something else that they had this spread. Oh, there was bacon strips in there, and they were making sandwiches to order. And if you got one that had enough stuff on it, it became an Ultra Cadultra sandwich. Again, I think they were maybe 2nd grade. The oldest was at the time. So
okay.
We had like a 2nd grade and a 4-year-old or something like that. I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was 3rd grade, but yeah, they had fun with it. So
nice.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll have some fun with that. So yeah, hey, everyone, thank you guys for being part of our family, DJNTV family for the year and with us again. And I hope that you have some time that you can spend with family, whether it's on video, phone call, just to be able to reach out and say hi to some folks, but doing it in a safe way. This is kind of a kind of a scary time for a lot of people in a lot of places. And we're just hoping that we can all make it through. So come January, February, March, we can still be getting together on our DJNTV shows.
Awesome.
Take us home, Dan.
All right. Well, on that note, I do want to say that I am thankful. I'm thankful for all of you guys for taking the time to join us, not just tonight, but every time that we get together. We have so many great people that join us in the chat, our regulars that I love all of you, and I thank you very much for taking the time to join us. So on that note, enjoy your Thanksgiving, enjoy your Black Friday shopping or Black Friday week or whatever they're calling it at this point. Enjoy yourself. Have a great night. We'll see you next time.